Good evening and welcome to the special council meeting starting at 5:30, Wednesday, November 9th. And at this time, I am calling the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. And at this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda. Are there any other emergent items from any of the councilors that need to be addressed or added to tonight's agenda? Seeing and hearing none. Then I'll need a motion to adopt this agenda. Councillor Wagoner?
Worship? Oh, sorry.
That's okay, thanks.
I move that council adopt the November 9th, 2022 special council meeting agenda as presented.
You've all heard the motion. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion is carried. That brings us to item 3, business, our only business in this meeting. 3.1, joint servicing study with Wheatland County. Mr. Scoble, are you starting us off on this one?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'll introduce it here. So discussions between the town of Strathmore and Wheatland County regarding the provision of the town's water and wastewater services to growth areas in the county have been ongoing for a number of years. However, work completed by both parties independent of each other are at the conceptual stage to Class D cost estimates. So more detailed costing and consideration of integration issues has not been considered by either party and is required to develop memorandums of agreement, utility rates, capital budgets, and shovel-ready grant applications to improve the probability of their award. So recently, Wheatland County has completed initial conceptual studies for West Side servicing in October and is looking to make servicing decisions in December. So this report is meant to, or this joint study, if it proceeds, is meant to go along with that. So the joint servicing study can effectively be considered as a phase 2 of the West Side servicing project, with the outputs of that report used as inputs to inform opportunities, constraints, and projects necessary for integration of the municipality's systems. So typically a joint servicing study would take about 6 months or more. However, with the anticipated timelines for development in the county, the study will have to be completed in 3 months, which could come with a bit of a premium in the marketplace. Should council approve this motion, the town will advise the county and await its feedback on next steps. So the desired outcome of this is a collaboration-driven outcome to identify and implement mutually beneficial synergies from announced and planned growth in both municipalities, ideally with joint servicing considered as a component of the broader intermunicipal development planning and collaborative economic development initiatives, which would ultimately achieve a collaborative ecosystem in state amongst the municipalities, institutions, and businesses in the 2 municipalities. So in terms of financial, the study is not budgeted for in either 2022, the approved budget, or the 2023 proposed budget due to its emergent nature, and it's proposed to be funded from the current 2022 stabilization reserve, with the balance for this project carried over into 2023 because it will go into next year. The funds allocated are for a 50-50 cost share between the town and the county, and should additional funding be approved, or should the funding be approved tonight, this is the maximum funding. If additional funding was required, additional council approval would be sought. So overall, this has a potential in terms of, sustainability. It kind of ticks all the boxes. In terms of economic sustainability, a joint servicing study does present the opportunity to form the basis for developing the potential MOUs between the town and the county and or future rate setting for integration with and utilization of town-owned infrastructure to support county growth. And when considered along with other initiatives and or infrastructure, including the upcoming intermunicipal development plan and intermunicipal collaboration frameworks, it provides even broader latitude and greater potential for mutually beneficial and equitable options and outcomes for both parties. And it also enables the region to be investment ready and maintain or enhance quality of life for residents in both municipalities, both key investment attraction factors. In terms of social sustainability, as we kind of talked about indirectly, provision of integrated water, wastewater, and stormwater treatment in the region, distribution systems, collection, and reuse and recycle systems driven by non-residential growth in both communities can maintain or enhance the quality of life for residents in both municipalities. And in terms of environmental sustainability, a joint servicing study presents the opportunity to evaluate optimal integrated system configurations, evaluate compatible water distribution and wastewater collection systems, and consider complementary on-site and off-site effluent and stormwater reuse and recycling systems to conserve source water supply for both water supply security and growth in both communities, reduce systems carbon footprints, and minimize quality impacts on effluent systems on receiving water bodies. So that's my introduction of it. I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Councillor Wegener.
Thank you for that explanation, Kevin. I got some of it. Some of it flew over my head. But maybe correct me if I'm wrong. You say this is going to enhance, or it's beneficial to both communities. To me, it almost sounds like it's more beneficial to the county as compared to the town. Is that somewhat of a correct statement on my part, or am I way out to lunch?
I think there's opportunity for significant benefit for both communities if this is done in an integrated manner. If it's if it's done in more of a piecemeal approach, I guess, with other issues and infrastructure, then potentially yes, there could be either way there could actually be I guess preferential advantages. So I think this is about this is doing it independently versus doing it together. And doing it together, I think, is 1 + 1 = 3. Like, it's greater than 2, and that's again benefits to everyone.
Okay. Yeah, still having a bit of a tough time with this. I guess you said there is a time crunch on this here, and with the time crunch, to me, it sounds like it's more of a time crunch on the county part rather than us.
Well, yeah, sorry, just to clarify, I think it could be a time crunch on both of us because, plans in the county could really accelerate plans within the town boundaries too. So it's about getting everything ready.
Okay. Do you know what, Kevin? I have never not trusted you. I will trust you on this one as well. 25,000 is a lot, especially at this time. I guess ideally, I'd like to see the county pay for the whole thing, but that probably is not an issue or will happen. So those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wegener. Deputy Mayor Peterson.
I think you're on mute, Deputy Mayor.
I apologize. I really support this, Kevin, and I appreciate the sensibilities that you've introduced that are around it. And I'm in favor of the study. I'm in favor of taking a look, and I think that $25,000 is not out of the question to understand fully the impacts of this going forward. And I really accept it, and I'm in favor of it, but I'm in favor of it conditionally. And the condition that I have around this is that water and wastewater and the management of water, which is unquestionably our precious resource into the next half century and beyond, is not a one-off. And so if we can't do this in the context of a broader circumstance, and in other words, a well-developed, fleshed out IDP, then I don't see much hope for this, because it cannot stand on its own. It just cannot, in my opinion. Water is a critical resource, whether it's potable water or wastewater or management of water overall. It is a driving force beyond every other factor in this community. And as a steward of the community, I can't see my way through to this unless it contains a broader context, a context that includes at least a goodwill of an IDP. And I guess my question to you is there willingness on their part to look at this in the wholeness of our community structure? And it's not just us, it's our small towns, it's our critical infrastructure, it's development both here and in the county. And it's not just industrial development. This speaks to people and survival.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Certainly, I agree with your comments. I think the way to move forward on this is, both municipalities have committed to an intermunicipal development plan, and the committees have been decided upon at the organizational meeting. So I think this is a discussion that I would suggest that the elected officials from both communities have at that initial meeting as we're setting terms of reference for the IDP going forward.
So I really appreciate that, and I'm willing to take them at their word. But that is something at the end of this study, I'm willing to pay the money to utilize our hard-won taxpayers' dollars to take a look. But if at the end of this study, well, depending on the outcome of the study and what it says to us about our community going forward together, that will be a deciding factor for me, because it's not a one-off. And so I appreciate that I think I hear you say that they have made a commitment to developing an IDP going forward.
That's my understanding. They have a similar to the organizational meeting that the town had. The counties had an organizational meeting, and they've assigned elected representatives for that group.
Because an IDP is something different from what's been talked about before and what's been on the table previously. So I guess I just want to put it out there that when the time comes to make a decision going forward on this, I won't sacrifice the future of our community with regards to water resources for any reason. But if we move forward together on long-term intermunicipal development, I'm in, I'm all in. Thank you. And I really appreciate your comments and the wisdom in them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions from councillors at home? Oh, Councillor Wiley, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
No worries, thanks. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Is it possible that this study will actually further support Councillor Peterson's comments that water is a precious resource, and in fact then further support the importance of us doing a thorough or fulsome IDP? I guess when I read the document, I thought this is perfect. This is perfect timing going into this IDP. This study has the potential to support our concerns about water.
Through the chair. So what I've put in the report there, I did go through it pretty fast, but certainly something that I would like to see in the scope is looking at both on-site and off-site wastewater recycling and stormwater recycling. So, if there's applications that can be applied to, every bit of that used is helps us with our conservation of potable water. I mean, typically in industrial and commercial developments, 85% of the water demand can be non-potable. It's still some level of treatment, but it doesn't have to be drinking water quality water, right? So, and of course, every cubic meter of water you treat, that water has to be pumped, which has climate emission, greenhouse gas emissions. It requires chemical. Of course, there's carbon intensity in producing the chemical to treat the water. There's carbon intensity in pumping it. So again, the more that we can reuse locally, the less that we're drawing on that raw water source and consuming that source water, basically.
Yeah, thank you. And I just think too that the more we know about our water and the resource that it is and how we can work together for efficiencies in both municipalities, the more we can use that to work on other things too with the surrounding county. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And I'd like to thank my fellow councillors for your very wise comments and questions this evening. They've been absolutely wonderful. And I just want to echo that while I am a bit disappointed that this is coming to us a bit at the last hour, and it's perhaps something that could have been discussed a little earlier through no fault of this council or our administration. I am hopeful that this signals, a really collaborative approach to the work that we're going to be undertaking with the county, and looking at, future opportunities for us to collaborate not only on water, but on other planning and development issues as well. So well, I'm not excited about the thought of spending $25,000, and I'm not excited about spending a premium to have it done quickly. I do absolutely, I will support this, this plan that we have proposed tonight. The one question that I do have regarding it is, it is mentioned to come out of the fiscal stabilization reserve. Is that the operating reserve? And is there any way that we could try and capitalize this and take it out of maybe our water utility, our water system reserve instead?
Well, typically this would not be a capital expenditure, but it doesn't necessarily have to come out of this particular reserve. I believe Leanne is on the line here. Perhaps I'll let her speak more to, I guess, other potential reserves.
As we do not have defined definitions for each one of our reserves, which administration will be bringing back to you in the new year, we are best to use our tax stabilization reserve because our other reserves that we have been collecting from our utilities are basically for infrastructure. Right now, this is more of a study, and we are better to use an operating reserve than a capital reserve. Did that answer your question?
That did. Thank you. The question stemmed from in our budget presentations that we were looking at on Monday. I just noticed that some of our utility reserves are quite a bit higher than that other reserve. So that's where that thought was coming from. But I understand that we are under some restrictions regarding which reserves we can use, and I'm sure that you've chosen the best one possible. So thank you very much for answering that question. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid. Any other questions at home? Councillor Montgomery, do you have any?
No, I don't have any questions really. I just want to say, like, I see this as a good investment, and it's an investment in a partnership with the county, and I agree with Councillor Peterson. Actually, I think that water is our most precious resource, and it's basically our lifeblood, and it will be our lifeblood even more so in the future. And I'm comfortable that, or I'm confident that we're not going to be risking the future of the community in any way. If it turns out that we can make a deal, great, that works for both of us. If it turns out that there isn't a deal to be made that benefits both of us, then that's just the way it is. I actually, there's a lot of water, as some council members know, there's a lot of water, trapped under the ground in the county. So, there could be a day when, we're asking the water to flow the other way. So, I think it's good. It's good to invest in this partnership, and I appreciate council's and administration's work on it so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. I agree with everything that's been said. I think the IDP will be essential for the two groups of Wheatland County and the town to move forward. We need to come up with a good plan. We need to put that plan into writing and ensure that it's ratified by both members, both municipalities. And as we do have capacity in our water line from Calgary, we do have to also remember that there is a finite supply of that water, and that this area of south central Alberta is going to be really impacted by the availability of water in the next 30 to 40 years. So we do have to be really strong stewards of the water. We have to work together. We have to be aware of each other's plans and developments. And we need to ensure that that water is going to be utilized well and protected. And as CAO Scoble mentioned, the reuse of some aspects of water will be very important too into the future. So at this point, I'm looking for a motion then from council. Councillor Wegener.
Just one more thing, and again, as everyone said, the discussion is great. I do agree with Denise that there needs to be a more fulsome future discussion with the county. Right now, I'm I will reluctantly support this motion. Just a question though, is if it does go over the $25,000 that is budgeted for, where does that money, where will that money come from?
Well, at that time, we would come back to council for approval, and the finance department would make a recommendation about the funding source, whether it's continues to be the stabilization reserve or other means.
Okay, thank you. And just one more thing, I know the county has done a great job and a very, very aggressive job on securing major projects and that. I just hope that with this study that, well, I just hope that everybody can play fair in the sandbox is my big thing. So again, thank you for everybody's information and input.
Thank you, Councillor Wagner. Did you put a motion on the floor? Would you like to? Oh, Councillor Montgomery.
Yeah, I can do a motion if you like that.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sure. I will move the council authorize up to a maximum of $25,000 from the stabilization reserve for administration to complete a cost-shared joint servicing study with Wheatland County, should the county select connection to and or integration with existing town and regional water supply, wastewater treatment, and stormwater infrastructure that is currently owned by the town as preferred options upon completion of its West Side servicing project in December 2022.
Thank you for that motion. Are there any further comments regarding the motion on the floor? Councillor Wiley?
Okay, so I'm just trying to formulate my thoughts. I was thinking about what Jason was saying regarding the underground aquifers. Does this study not go far enough? Like, if we're just looking at Wheatland integrating with our current existing water supply, should we be, maybe not in this motion, but planning in the future to do a much broader water analysis, or has that already been done? Do we have access to that kind of information?
Mr. Scoville?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, no, we are looking at all of the, I guess, water sources, you know, in a broader picture. I mean, we've done a bit of work historically, and we're doing some more. I mean, this is, you know, I guess a bit of a limited scope to traditional water and wastewater and storm infrastructure, but we, you know, certainly are investigating other, you know, I guess the hydrology in the region in general, you know, whether that's surface water or groundwater.
The only reason I bring it up then now is if we're talking about shared costs with Wheatland for this, if we move forward in the future and start looking at the aquifers and everything, it'd be nice if that was also shared costs. But I suppose that's something then we would explore within the intermunicipal development plan.
Yeah, you know, and I'll be having conversations with the county if council approves this tonight. And you know, like, we haven't defined the scope. I outlined some of the things that we'd want to consider in the scope, but you know, certainly we'll have that discussion if it's appropriate to, you know, look at the broader, I guess I should say, hydrogeology in the region. We are looking at the hydrology. So.
Yeah, this motion specifically says integration with the existing town. Oh no, it does say existing town and regional water supply. So it could be, that could be within the scope of the motion.
If council wants to give that latitude, I wasn't specific there, but by the regional water supply, I was referring to the East Calgary regional water line, but we you know, if it's the will, you know, council's understanding here tonight that it includes aquifers and other sources of water in the region, we could certainly look at that as well.
Well, I'd be curious to hear what other councillors think, and also what would be your advice.
My advice would be to keep it to the traditional infrastructure at this point in time. And you know, I think it can be rolled, the broader hydrogeology in the region can be rolled into the IDP, or it's, you know, like I said, administration has been doing some work and we do plan to do some more work. So at this point, I think it, you know, it could be part of your terms of reference in the IDP to include a broader look at regional water. But the intent of this motion when I wrote it, it's to existing, I guess, water supply and wastewater treatment and stormwater infrastructure within the region, and what do we need to integrate with that, and is there any new infrastructure that's needed to be a part of that broader regional system?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Councillor Montgomery, then Deputy Mayor Peterson.
Thank you. Just to, I guess, respond to Councillor Wiley's question. I personally, I am under the impression that Wheatland County has been kind of looking into their water situation quite heavily for a number of years. And so honestly, I think this is one where we could probably let them do the legwork, and, you know, they'll be looking for solutions just for their own, you know, their own purposes. And then, you know, at that point, we could probably, you know, find out information, you know, based on that, whatever comes up from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. And I think they had a recent public meeting where some information was provided publicly from a consultant regarding water supplies for their future development. Deputy Mayor Peterson and then Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's exactly what I was going to say. They had some good information that came forward at one of their recent public meetings, but we also did. We had the head of WaterSmart in front of us. She's someone that our CAO has worked with, has extensive history. And so to me, that whole, I like the scope of what has been presented to us tonight by the CAO for what we're headed, for what we need to do now. I think that that's a worthwhile endeavor just to stay within that scope. But that IDP going forward, that's a much bigger, much longer, much more detailed, and undoubtedly much more expensive proposition. And so I think it leads to that. Certainly in the past, you know, Strathmore did a tremendous amount of research without any of the new hydrological data that's available to us today. But when they were looking in the early 2000s, 2003 to 2009, when that water project was completed, they had done significant studies of their own to try to mitigate the circumstances of that $90 million that it cost to bring that pipe here. And some of that is relevant today, even yet. But I think this is a much bigger discussion than what we're looking to do right now. So in the interest of planning, and thinking about what Councillor Wagner said, there's, you know, always a little anxiety on our part to move at a pace that's uncomfortable, but it's for a reasoned purpose, and it's not that we have to sell the farm today or even think about it. So we have time, and I think the parameters that Kevin has defined, that our CEO has defined, are the right ones for the time. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So we have a motion on the floor, and I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion is carried. That we have nothing in the closed meeting tonight, so at this point, I'll adjourn the November 9th, 2022 special council meeting at 5:58, and we'll be starting the regular committee of the whole meeting at 6 o'clock.